Welcome back to the Last Week This Week podcast, episode 66. I'm Ian Scott.
And I'm Zach Huber.
And this is the podcast where we talk about movie and TV topics from the last week and give them to you all this week. And this week we have a ton of news to go over with you guys. Really exciting stuff. Really excited for this one.
Yeah. We are going to talk about everything that's kind of the main things that have kind of come out of the San Diego Comic-Con convention that just occurred this weekend.
Mainly three panels, right?
Mostly three panels. So we'll talk about the boys panel, DC panel, even though I don't even know if you want to call it like a presentation of sorts.
Right.
And then obviously anybody who's not living under a rock this past weekend, everything that came out at the Marvel MCU panel. But we are going to talk about arguably the biggest movie of the year and review it, which is Deadpool and Wolverine, which we just got to see last night. And, right before we even talk about anything, I woke up this morning to seeing that it had made $438 million worldwide.
Yeah.
And
insane.
I told my girlfriend this movie in its opening weekend has made more money than Black Adam ever did. And
yeah. Did you see though, like how it compared to other like big like movies that have released in like a big opening weekend? Like I saw that at Endgame. I don't know if you remember what Endgame did in its opening weekend, but apparently it pulled in $1.2 billion, which I'm like,
on the opening weekend?
Yeah.
No,
dude. So
no.
I saw it. I mean, like those were the numbers, and Infinity War did like 650 million. And worldwide on the opening weekend, it did like 1.2. I mean, like it is wow. By far like the most amazing number. I don't think a movie could ever do that again. I could be wrong.
We could be wrong.
But post pandemic, like a movie opening weekend, especially for it being like a rated R movie, like this is huge. I don't think I ever expected it to be this gigantic.
No.
Yeah.
It's the biggest R-rated opening of all time. Right. It's the 8th biggest domestic in the US. And there's little doubt in my mind at this point that it doesn't become the highest grossing R-rated movie
of all time.
And going past whatever Joker made, which was some 1 point something billion, whatever it was.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I just like the way the MCU had been going recently, I really didn't expect. Like I wasn't fully expecting this to go over $1 billion, but I mean it's pretty undoubtable at this point that it will leap that, you know.
I mean, the way that I've been thinking about it is I wonder how many people associate Deadpool and are like, oh yeah, Deadpool's now in the MCU. Like I think there's still like a good amount of people that maybe are going to go into this and be like a little surprised. I don't know the amount of people.
I think it would be a little amount.
But I don't know, because I think people just associate Deadpool to be its own thing. And then they're like, oh, it'll be, now it's like in the MCU. And they're like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know when that happened. But I also think that a large amount of people are also just like, oh, aren't they all kind of the same in the same, like Sony, like Venom, still like Marvel. And so I think there's a percentage of people out there.
Possible.
But that still speaks to what you're saying, which is that the way that Marvel movies have been going, not a lot of people are crazy about them, but then they see this. And I think this has more to do with the fact that people like Deadpool.
People like Wolverine.
People love Wolverine. And it looks good. Everything that people have been seeing looks good. And there's been nothing but positive there's nothing but been positive association with this movie. But still was not expecting 438 million worldwide in the opening weekend.
Yeah, I mean, and we're really we're recording this Sunday morning, kind of behind the scenes info there. And like the fact that it's already made that amount of money is mind blowing to me. Like we're not even through Sunday yet.
And I know that a lot of movies usually get like a 50 to 60% drop off, the second weekend. But even if that were to happen, which it might happen, but I do feel like this thing is still like there's still
They could easily make 200 mil next weekend, you know?
Yeah, like it might just make like the 50 half, and even with that 50% drop, even with that, you're looking at 600 to 700 million. Yeah. And then that's only the second weekend. And I don't even know if it's going to have that much of a drop just because of how good it is. And I think that people it has a lot of want to watch it again.
Right. It has a lot of rewatchability. Like,
and that I think more people are going to be like, oh, was that good? All right, I'll go check it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Word of mouth is huge, honestly. Like that's why so many movies don't do well, is because the online word of mouth is so terrible. And then, people just don't go see it.
Right.
I think it's undoubtable at this point too that we're getting a sequel to this, like to Deadpool, like a Deadpool 3, because like they had been saying during this whole movie,
Deadpool
like
4, right.
Well, they were saying that this isn't a Deadpool 3 movie, like that this is Deadpool and Wolverine, and this isn't, which I would disagree with. I think it's pretty. Like it's a pretty major Deadpool story to me. Like it doesn't feel like it feels like it's its own thing, you know?
I don't know. It feels like, well, sure. I mean, to me, I guess I was gonna say it felt like both of them had their own story, but then they also were both the same story in their own ways.
Right, right. So I mean, yes, a Deadpool sequel in general, whatever they call it, I think will happen because the character is just so popular and it's doing so well every time it hits the box office.
I mean, the Deadpool character just got put into its own like attraction amusement park.
The story time thing.
The story time with Deadpool thing. At Disney. They
I love that.
aren't I just can't see them like wanting to bring back Deadpool and do this. If they now maybe they will just be like, well, that's it, you know. I find it highly unlikely after the box office, after some of the things that were said towards the end of the movie.
Yes.
That it felt like, okay, we're still going with this. Mm-hmm. But I one of the people that, you know, that I trust on YouTube when it comes to stuff like this, like John Campia was saying, like, I don't think that there's going to be another straight up just Deadpool movie. I think he'll be in other MCU movies, but I don't think there will be their own Deadpool movie.
I'd be shocked.
I understand that line of thinking. And to be honest, like, if this was the last just Deadpool movie, I think I'd be happy. Sure. But I don't think that's happening. I think
agree.
There's absolutely no way that they don't do a sequel.
There's just too much money to be made. Like, genuinely, I just can't see a studio not making a sequel to this, you know?
Yeah. And I think I can't remember if Deadpool 2 made more money than Deadpool 1. I think it did.
It's possible.
But the same way that the John Wick movies only like they just keep this is their trajectory,
right? And so now they planned a John Wick 4 ending
with Deadpool, like
They planned the ending for John Wick 4, and then they're like, well, we kind of have to make a fifth one, you know, because it just keeps making so much money.
You really didn't. Oh,
I agree. Yeah,
you know,
the studio feels like they do. Is all I'm saying. Yeah, right. I feel like we should probably talk about the actual movie though.
Right.
No, here's the thing. I love this movie. I really do. It was such a fun time. It's really like a cinema spectacle in a sense. And I think the only reason why I was maybe a bit disappointed in a sense, not like overall, but like I think I had built this movie up to be like everything, you know, and it ended up being like a lot of what I wanted, but more so a Deadpool and Wolverine story than like a shit ton of fighting and like and guest appearances and like I don't know. I think it became a movie that was actually like better in a sense than what I imagined, but it wasn't like I didn't get like a Hulk and Wolverine fight, or I didn't get like a ton of the original X-Men characters returning, hero versions of those characters. So I think overall the movie was so fun and one of the funniest MCU movies ever, and it actually had a lot of heart and like a ton of great action. So really, really enjoyed my time with this one.
Yeah, I really love this one. am so excited to watch it again this week. Whenever I do go to see it again, and I don't really. I'm not going to say any like things about like I guess like things that I was expecting, because that's not on the fault of the movie. That's just like something that I was like, oh, I think we might see this. And there's definitely things that we didn't see that I thought we might have seen, and then there's things that we saw for a bit that we didn't see. But then there's a ton of things that I just never thought that I would see that I got to see, which is equally as exciting and gratifying.
It is. You're right.
I love this. I feel like this movie really was like the perfect runtime. I don't think it needed to be longer. I don't think it should have been shorter. Though. Sure, I
wouldn't have made it shorter. Yeah.
But I think that the story that they developed with Deadpool and Wolverine and how they handled the legacy of the Fox universe, the legacy of Logan, the legacy, everything built up with Deadpool already, the way that they handled going into the MCU, the way that they used the Void. Yeah. So many different things just worked at such an incredible level that they took elements that have already been built up in the MCU and were able to tell like a love letter to the Fox universe in a really interesting and compelling way. Yeah. And we got to see a different Wolverine, but it's still kind of the same Wolverine because he's exhibiting all the traits that a Wolverine would in a way, but we get to see a Wolverine in a way that a lot of people have been wanting for a very long time. And it was very exciting. And it reminded me, like, I've only seen one other Sean Levy movie, and that's Free Guy. And that movie is very similar to what a lot of people's favorite movies do, and movies that I think there should be more of, where it's there's a lot of comedy, there's a lot of fun but at the center of it, there's still like a very heartfelt, emotional story, and you need those moments. Like, you can have the cool action, the cool set pieces, the comedy that makes people laugh a lot, but you also have to have real heart and stakes, and sometimes and not undercut it with something else, like not with a joke or not with a whatever. I mean, there was a ton of jokes in this, but they did like some of their emotional scenes parts were not undercut by like, we had a conversation afterwards that, and not to harp on people because everybody, I don't have a strong enough opinion about it, but there has been definitely conversation that audiences or studios think that audiences can't handle an emotional scene or bits of seriousness for a long amount of time. They need to constantly keep it like lighthearted. And this movie doesn't do that, and it's all the better for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think for a majority of the movie, it is lighthearted. But yes, I know what you're saying for sure. I think if we want to get into spoilers now, I know we've kind of said some light spoilers, but we haven't really gone fully into it. I think the villains in this movie, though, surprised me. Like, I think from the trailers, I was expecting Cassandra Nova and Paradox to be like secondary villains, and they ended up being like the full-on primary villains of this movie. Yeah. And I thought they both did a really great job. Like, Paradox was maybe not as smart as I wanted, but I thought Tom Cavanaugh played a really great part in this movie, and he was enjoyable. Wasn't that his name? Isn't that his name?
No.
What's his name?
Matthew McFadden.
I don't know where I got Tom Cavanaugh. So Matthew McFadden, yeah, I thought he was great in this movie.
Maybe Tom Wamsgam, but
could be. Yeah, I don't know. Right? Yeah, I genuinely don't know where I got Tom Cavanaugh. But yeah, Matthew McFadden, he was great every time he was on screen. I did enjoy Cassandra Nova more, though. She was really, she was a really great, like, almost like a mirroring of what we had seen in the past from like Professor X types, but just in a much more twisted way.
Yeah.
And I loved her. Like, I loved just the story behind her being sent to the void as a baby, and her just kind of, conquering this wasteland and making it her own, and using all of like the past Fox X-Men villains as her henchmen, and living out of the Ant-Man like skull. Like, I don't know, it was all just done really well and really cool, and yeah, it was surprising, but I liked it. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with everything that you said. And I wanted to say, starting off with this movie, there was a lot of conversation when this movie got announced about how they were going to handle the legacy of Logan. And I absolutely love that in the opening credits of this movie, there's conversation about how are we going to handle the legacy of Logan? And it's like, we're like, how are you? We're just like, we're not going to, do any.
We're just going to use his bones as the opening credits.
And it was to me, digging him up and making sure that, yes, he is in fact dead. We're not going to bastardize this. But in that same breath, basically desecrate his corpse, which is what a lot of fanboys were like really hoping that they wouldn't do.
Right.
So they did, in a way, save the memory of that movie, but in another way, like completely
they kind of spat on it in a sense.
But it was perfect.
It really, because it's perfect for Deadpool, like I feel like he's the only one who could even get away with desecrating a Wolverine corpse, and it was some of the best action in that movie was just tearing through TVA agents in a really fun, way, just dancing all over the place. And yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Soundtrack, incredible.
Yep.
I don't know if I could pick like a favorite fight scene. There was so many amazing fight scenes that they were all amazing in their own way. Like, if it's not Deadpool dancing boy band style to NSYNC's Bye 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 while murdering TVA agents with adamantium
tens of
skeletons,
TVA agents, right?
Or the fight in the Honda, was it Odyssey?
I think that might be my favorite. Yeah, the Honda Odyssey. Yeah, that was such a great, like, really gritty, like, just enclosed fight. And I thought it was so funny because I mentioned to you about the ESPN Ocho, like, card jutsu.
Yes, and that's what like Hannah said to me, and she's like, "This is card nice. Or whatever you said it was." Yeah, card jutsu. Yeah, and then we have the fucking fight at her compound at Cassandra Nova's compound.
That was really great too, because you got to see all of the other characters' powers. Like, I love seeing Gambit in action like that. He had really great effects. I was really happy with that. And Blade in action, and Daphne Keane back as X-23. Loved all that.
And then even the fight with the entire Deadpool Corps. Like, that great tracking shot was amazing. Like, I mean, it's just.
They just got to start doing more tracking shots in the MCU. Like, we just had one last year with the Guardians. And now this year, it's just tracking shots is where, because you don't get, like, I feel like in so many major action movies, like, the director is just cutting all over the place. And sometimes it's really hard to like figure out what's going on. But in a tracking shot, you get to see like the entire beauty of everything being choreographed. And it's just so enjoyable to watch.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing is that there's only so many people that are like, it's not like, oh, we'll do a tracking shot and it's going to work out amazing. Like,
sure.
It's, that it
it's got to be really, really choreographed. Right?
Yeah. So all the action was incredible. I'm so happy for Channing Tatum that he finally got to play Gambit, and not only did he get to play Gambit, but there was comedy to the effect of like
he was one of the funniest points of the movie.
Yeah. And it was like, that Cajun accent is ridiculous. in a way.
Right. But it wasn't like he had figured out the Cajun accent, because like they obviously poked fun at Channing Tatum not working with a dialect coach. And so like it went from like, I don't know, like a French accent to like a Western accent to like a Hispanic accent. I mean, it was all over the place. You couldn't figure out where he was from.
Right.
Yeah.
But I just love seeing him. And then it was so all the effects were so awesome. And I was very happy for him to finally get to play that role after all the drama and that had occurred.
That might have been like top 3 surprises of that movie, was seeing him pop up. I was like, you got to be kidding me. He's here. Yeah.
Jennifer Garner as Elektra.
Yeah.
Was nice. I'm not gonna say that like it did a ton.
She wasn't amazing, right? Yeah. But I thought she was a good character in the movie, and I don't know. I think I don't know if you remember. Like I said, I had like known about some like big cameos in the movie. Hers was one of like the 3 that I knew.
Yeah, I knew she was gonna be in it.
Oh, okay. Well, you made it seem like you didn't know anyone other than X-23 was confirmed.
No, I knew that she was gonna be in it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know. Like her appearance wasn't like, wow, Jennifer Garner, but it was nice to see her in the movie, and she had some good action. So
Wesley Snipes as Blade was fantastic.
Fantastic.
Crazy that I get to see the original Blade before I get to see the new Blade in the MCU.
Whenever that comes.
But if it comes.
Because he made it seem like he's going to be the only Blade ever. So we'll see if that's true.
Which is a great joke. I mean, all the jokes were
at the MCU's expense. Were great.
MCU's expense, just in
Disney's
general,
expense, right?
Were so good. I mean, they were so well crafted jokes, and then a lot of them were also not well crafted, and they were just fucking stupid, but they were funny.
They were funny, yeah.
And also, a lot of the jokes were written well. The way that like Wade would process like a situation is like, we know that he's in pain, but he's gonna tell this joke, which kind of makes it cut even deeper sometimes. But then eventually, like he'll get to the point where he can't say any more jokes, and then he's actually like dealing with whatever it is. Hugh Jackman, one of his best performances as Wolverine.
He had, I mean, like despite all the comedy he did, like which wasn't your standard comedy, because it was like playing almost as a straight man to Deadpool, but it's to me was the emotional scenes of this movie and like his emotional, I guess, arc throughout it that really like made me love his performance in this one. Like it was truly one of his best.
Yeah. And I mean, and even with Wade, I mean, everything with him trying to tell himself pretty much that he's happy with being a used car salesman, that, you know, he's trying to be happy, you know, celebrating his birthday with all these people that he loves. And you genuinely feel that he loves all these people around him. And then to have that scene with Vanessa and the kitchen table was just, was great.
Yeah. I think, yes, I like the story of this. I liked his purpose throughout it. But I think, like I mentioned to you yesterday, I think it is always like a bummer to I know it's like I know it's a great story plot device, but it's a bummer for us to revisit a relationship that was once so strong, and then to see that in the years since it has fallen apart, and he has to fix it. I mean, I feel like that really pissed us off in Indiana Jones. Like, why couldn't he have just been happy and married and then go on an adventure, you know? Which could have been the same here, but you're like, then what would be his purpose for this movie, you know? And what, like, and Vanessa has always been his driving force in every movie. So in that sense, I don't mind it, but I wouldn't have minded another direction if it could have been as good, you know?
I mean, personally, I really liked it.
Sure.
I don't have any problems with how they went with that.
I don't blame you. Because it was told in a really great way, and by the end of it, like it was fixed, you know, and you could tell that they were probably on the track to get better, you know. And I like that, like the movie didn't end in like a stereotypical like, you know, we're back together and in love and we had this gigantic kiss. It was just like, we'll leave it up for the audience's interpretation, and it's pretty heavily implied, but it's not like 100%, you know?
Right.
So that was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else? There was whatever you want to say. The scene with where they're playing the Madonna song and they're trying to stop the Time Ripper. Chef's kiss.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Beautiful scene. Beautiful scene. Hugh Jackman got ripped for this one. I mean, insane when his suit came off and like you just saw pure stomach. I was like, yo, you have like no fat on you at all. Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit, a little comic booky that it's like, well, the shirt burned off, but not the pants.
The pants and the boots and yeah, right. No, yeah. I feel you.
And not the helmet, but
sure. But
it was cool.
Yeah. And one of my favorite parts of this movie too was the Finding Logan montage at the beginning of the movie where you went through every so good. So many different versions of Wolverine you've been wanting to see. And Hugh Jackman looked great as every single one of them. And then you had the surprise that Henry Cavill was one of the Wolverine. I mean, and he looked amazing. He looked great. And I know they're not going to use him in the future, but you could easily see it. I would love to see something like that. And I don't know. He looked great. Yeah.
Incredible.
That
was what I was saying. Like, there's things that I just was like, holy shit, we're doing this. Right. And it was great. It just brought me back to all the 90s X-Men comics that I would see at my cousin's. And I was just like, holy shit, I'm really seeing like 90s Wolverine crucified on the Big X and him in the streets with this crazy fucking
I love that one.
Big hair, like,
oh my god,
it's amazing.
Yeah. Amazing. And you got to see like this like
Wolverine.
smart. Oh yeah, the small Wolverine, but you also got to see like the smart Wolverine and like the suit and like eye patch and I don't know, like that was so fun.
And then the whole movie him in the brown suit, and he's like, "This is the one that you fight the Hulk in." And we got to see the Hulk right before they're supposedly gonna fight, and that's the one thing that I was like, I wish that there was like a part in the movie where they're going through the void, and for some reason they hadn't encountered a Hulk there and needed to like fight.
I wouldn't have minded that at all.
That's the one thing that I was like, oh, I really wish I could have seen that. But I appreciate that we got that moment. Yeah. It was cool. I'm happy with it.
Sure.
I'm not gonna knock points off the movie for that, because that's fucking stupid.
Because it's fan service,
it's just
right?
It's just a fan thing. And the only other thing that I was like, oh, I'm really certain we're gonna see is, I thought we were gonna see at least James Marsden and like Storm.
Me too.
Like comic accurate suits. Yeah. We didn't, and that's fine. I still think that if they are going to do it, which they may never do it, and that's okay. But if they are going to do it, maybe in like Avengers Secret Wars or something like that,
For sure. But we did get like another huge surprise, which was Chris Evans playing Johnny Storm.
Incredible.
I mean, that was one of the first like big things that ever happened in the movie. And I'm like, holy crap, we're starting off with this. Like we have so much more of the movie left. And I don't know. And he was great. Like, I love that he actually went back and like acted like Johnny Storm, and I don't know, the effects were great, and the comedy with him and Deadpool was one of the best. And he had the end credit scene at the end, and just he was amazing in this.
Yeah. I mean, everyone's like excited about, having Robert Downey Jr. back. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert for next topic. Yeah.
But like Chris Evans has continuously been back for years. Like, he's never gone away at this point. That's wild.
Well, I mean, when's the last time we've seen him in the MCU?
He was in oh God, what was it? I thought we saw him in something else post Endgame.
Because I didn't think we had seen him since Endgame, to be honest.
Did we not?
I don't think so.
I feel like I'm forgetting something that he might have been in, but anyways,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's exciting. Yeah. I'm super happy he's back. I don't think I've ever seen, not ever, I don't think I've seen anyone talk about it like since the movies come out. But yeah, I'm excited to see.
Well,
see people's reactions.
apparently Entertainment Weekly like put a big spoiler headline regarding that out.
Interesting.
And I was like, fuck all of these news outlets. Like, just let people have some time to watch the movie. Like, you know, it's just annoying.
For sure. Gosh, I don't know if there's anything else that I wanted to highlight.
I think I didn't get to watch Deadpool 2 again before watching this movie. Mm-hmm. And I think it's unfair to even have to put them like movies in contention with one another about like which one did I like more, which one was quote unquote better. So like I'm not gonna say that like I liked this one more than another one because truthfully I love all the Deadpool movies for very specific reasons. This one I definitely enjoyed for a lot of different reasons more than other ones. Agreed. But like I'm not gonna say that like Deadpool, the first Deadpool was better than this one because in a lot of ways like I like this one more, but in a lot of ways I like the first Deadpool more for certain reasons.
Right, because it's truly like a Deadpool like story and movie and you get all the action and
and the story behind that one was so good.
Right.
And it was so like affecting and it was truly like one of the first of its kind to do what it was doing. Mm-hmm. So anyways, I just want to say that this was amazing. Yeah. And I don't know if we'll see Hugh Jackman again. I have a sneaking suspicion that we will.
I was saying to our friend that I think just him being at the table alone at the end is proof enough that we'll see him again. Because
that's what I was thinking.
Like if he had just walked down the street at the end and he didn't call out for him, I think that would have been like, well, that's it, you know. But the fact that he's still around in Deadpool's life and they said multiple times like in the movie,
he's
like
gonna play this till he's 90. Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. It feels like those two are coming back.
I think that he probably signed a contract for at 2 to 3 more movies. And one of those is going to be Secret Wars. And then he'll probably be gone.
Maybe it's just Secret Wars. I don't know.
Right.
But even if it's just Secret Wars for those two, and then we get another Deadpool movie, that's great. I'm okay with that, you know?
And you know, you had mentioned that like Kevin Feige said that this is like an out of the impact to the MCU, which like, to be honest, like I don't trust anything with like impact like anymore because like sure. And you could say Infinity War was like a 9 out of 10.
And Endgame was a 10 out of 10.
A 10 out of 10. Calling this one an 8 out of 10. I think
I'm not sure I agree.
See it.
Right.
But I think it introduces a concept that I think is a little I'm trying to wrap my head around it. If I give it some time, I will understand it. But they're like, I guess now we've introduced the fact that when a being jumps to another timeline, we create branch timelines. Now we're introducing the idea that if an anchor being dies, then the universe slowly dies
over thousands of years. Right.
And I am curious as to like how that's going to play out. And I'm sure that's going to be a big part of things moving forward.
It could be.
Or it might not be.
I could see them never mentioning it again, but
it does feel like wild. Maybe we're going back to a sacred timeline sort of thing where it's like, well, now.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it felt like because like there were points in this movie where I was confused about the timeline because the sacred timeline shouldn't exist anymore, but like Paradox was still referring to it as a sacred or referring to something as a sacred timeline. So I'm like, are you just saying Earth 616 is like the sacred time? I don't know.
I mean, Earth 616 is and was the sacred timeline.
Right.
And now you have all these other timelines that have branched off of it.
Right.
So like, yes, there is the sacred timeline. and then you have all these offshoots. It's still a little funky
It's a little
to me
confusing, right?
about like, well, what is now the TVA supposed to do? Is it only for like beings that are now hopping over into the 616? I don't know.
I just feel like it's multiversal threats they're policing. But I mean, I could be wrong.
But at the same
don't
time,
know.
like, isn't that Doctor Strange's job in a way? Like, I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, because that's what he's doing at the end of Doctor Strange too, right? So I don't know. It's a little messy at points, but that's just because there's so many properties and stories in the MCU right now, and it's hard to really cohesively put them together.
It would have. I think it's a lot tighter now because now we're not dealing with Kang as much, and now that we've introduced that there are now timelines that are slowly dying, and that they've set up these departments to oversee dying timelines. Like now it seems like things like we have a few, hanging out, and they're there, and we're just letting them live, and nothing crazy is necessarily going on. They're gonna die off eventually, but we still have the main one that's going strong. Like now I'm like, okay, things are feeling a little bit more like I understand it. I'm not going to get caught up in all of the shit that came before because, as soon as Quantumania happened, I was like, well, is this Kang the one that becomes that Kang? Or like what timeline, like which timeline is he referencing? Or when did I just kind of get a little confused.
So now personally. I feel like we're only going to be dealing with a few different timelines in the future. So maybe it is a little tighter. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. Or like maybe we'll lean more into like the incursion side of things where it's like,
which we will,
my world is gonna fucking die because you fucking jumped into mine or whatever the fuck,
Yeah. I'm excited to see that era of the MCU for sure.
I'm excited to like for Secret Wars to happen, and then we will not deal with multiverse probably ever again.
It's possible because I think at that point we're gonna be tired of the multiverse. I mean, even Deadpool was like, "I'm tired of the multiverse in this movie." So I think that's a sentiment a lot of people have, and I think when it's done well, it's really exciting, and so it's a good like avenue for stories. But I think after a few more years, that period will be over.
I mean, the thing is that. If they are going to do what I think that they're going to do for Secret Wars, which is bring back almost every character that wants to do it, every actor that wants to do it, but bring back every character that we have not seen or have seen been brought back and been put into the MCU from like the Fox universe or wherever the fuck. It's like everybody got, they're good. We got to give them their goodbye. We got to give them their due. There's really no need to bring anybody in because now everything's just going to be MCU moving forward under Disney.
Yeah.
There's really no point to do it anymore.
Right. No, yeah, I agree. You can tell brand new stories and set in a not as complicated universe. I think that's what everyone kind of wants. So, but yeah, overall, I think we're in a really good spot in the MCU, and the movie was great, and I had a really great time, and highly recommend, obviously, if you haven't already seen it. Yeah. So next, we're going to be talking about all of the stuff that happened at SDCC, like we talked about earlier. But first, we're going to be discussing the boys panel that happened, and not a ton was announced at this panel, but some exciting things for sure. First, we're going to talk about the fact that there is a Vought Rising prequel series happening with both Jensen Ackles and Aya Cash set to return. It will be a murder mystery set around the origins of Vought. And I think it'll be kind of exploring the kind of like the maniacal maneuvers of Stormfront / Liberty and in the origins of Soldier Boy. And I think that's insanely exciting because I think all the boys fans missed Soldier Boy this last season, and any more of Soldier Boy, I am here for.
I'm excited for this. I'm curious if Soldier Boy can carry a show solely on his own, because I think he works pretty great as like a really misogynistic, terrible, person,
Sure.
like supporting character that we follow along. But I am interested. I know that like Ayakasha Stormfront, I really like her. I thought she was a great addition to the boys.
She was.
And
to see her as Liberty back in the day would be super cool.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, obviously we'll probably find out she's a Nazi somewhere in there, and it'll be oh my God.
Right. You'll be seeing her like her plan evolve of like her kind of like white genocide, like anti thing, Right. So yeah.
And I was gonna say, God, what was it? Did we ever find out who Homelander's mother was, or was he just born? I think he's part human, right? He's not.
I don't know, because like I guess I had thought that Homelander was born just out of like somehow like Vought got his sperm, because Soldier Boy never knew he had a son,
right?
So it makes me think that like he wouldn't have had a mother, but I don't know.
So okay. In reality, he and the rest of the original roster of the Seven were grown in a secret laboratory, the progeny of genetic material taken from Stormfront, who was injected with Compound V while still a member of the Hitler Youth. He was artificially through Soldier Boy's sperm and an unknown woman's egg.
Okay.
Which I don't want this to be the case, but considering that Stormfront and Soldier Boy did start the first Herogasm, and we are probably going to see it from all accounts from Eric Kripke in this show. Is it possible that
she is
Stormfront could be his or grandmother, or I don't know, but like
I hate that so much, Zach, because of what happened in season 2.
I know.
I hate that
I know.
So much.
I don't want it to happen. I'm just saying, like it could also.
Man.
But anyways,
like it could. The Boys is a very twisted universe, and that could easily happen. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I definitely think we're gonna get Herogasm, like the origin of that in that season. I still think
like a 1950s, era of like superheroes could be really fun to see.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I think that'll be great. And like to see the rising of Vought, I think is going to be really exciting, and to see how they came about. But with like in regard to your mother question, I think it would benefit, I think, the story to have for Homelander to have a human mother, because I do believe like there are times where Homelander can't escape the human aspect of himself, where he needs love and attention, and like in this latest season we saw that he was graying quite a bit, as a human would. Whereas like Soldier Boy and Stormfront haven't really ever aged, So I think there are human aspects about him.
Maybe they won't even like have that sort of relationship, and they just started it, for their.
Oh, I could see them for sure doing it. Like I think that's gonna happen.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe that was confirmed. I can't remember.
What was confirmed?
I don't know if it was confirmed that they used to have relations or not.
No, but I feel like it's pretty heavily implied. If they started, like if both of them are the co-founders of Herogasm, then they probably did. Yeah.
Anyways, I think it's cool. I wasn't expecting it at all.
No, not at all.
I'm happy to see more Stormfront, more Soldier Boy.
I think it's brilliant, because I don't necessarily want more shows in the current universe, but to give us more content for the Boys, and for it to give us an inside look at Vought, and to give us a fan favorite character returning. Like I feel like it's a brilliant move.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we also got the announcement that, well, we already kind of figured with the post credits of season 4 that Soldier Boy was going to be a part of the final season, but we got confirmation that he would be a significant part of the final season. And the quote, there's a lot of good father-son emotion between him and Homelander that we never really got a chance to play that we're really interested in.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I mean, they really only got it maybe for a little bit at the last episode when they met each other, and
and it was barely much, but like a few lines.
Yeah, I'd love to see him deal with his, you're like a mama's boy sort of like, disappointment kind of person, and then like how that whole relationship evolves, and maybe Homelander kind of impresses him at some point. I don't fucking know, but
I think it's very much going to be Homelander replacing his like relationship with Ryan and like using like Soldier Boy as his new like source for like love and attention, right?
Yeah.
And I think he like Homelander craves family. So I think like regardless that Soldier Boy hurt his feelings at the end of that season 3 finale, I think he's going to be willing to forgive like open arms, Yeah. So exciting season 5 on the way. We got confirmation that Gen V season 2 comes out next year. And we got confirmation that The Boys Mexico is still in early development. So don't really know much about that yet, but we still have 3 other spinoff shows that are supposed to be releasing and coming out after The Boys even ends. So pretty cool stuff.
I hope The Boys Mexico is kind of like a play on Narcos, where it'll be like Narcos Mexico or I forget what the other Narcos shows.
You're thinking like use soups and like the drug cartel kind of stories.
Potentially, yeah. Like there's Narcos, there's Narcos Mexico. Oh God, El Chapo, maybe, I don't know, but I know there's definitely Narcos Mexico, okay. Which would be kind of interesting if they wanted to go into like a soup underground crime or drug or gang sort of thing. I don't know.
It'd be really fun. Yeah. So a lot of exciting stuff on the way for The Boys.
Yeah,
looking forward to it. Well, our next panel, we're going to talk about not much really, or I don't know. I think you said we can't really even call it a panel per se.
Yeah, you can't really call it a presence or a
presentation,
panel,
right? Yeah. But basically, we got a couple of things shown off this weekend for DC. First being they announced their new DC logo and DC logo animation for
quote unquote new. Let's be clear.
Yeah, right. But it's, even James Gunn said in the announcement, if you're a longtime DC fan, then you'll know this logo. It's it really is going back to the heyday of DC Comics, and I love that logo and the animation of like the old classic Superman breaking the chains, then it reversing. I don't know. It's great. I love it.
Yeah. I was telling Ian that first of all, maybe I'll just rewind the logo for the studios. We had the logo that they picked from like the mid 1970s up until like 2005 or so.
Yeah.
So for the majority of a lot of like the classic, what we know today, DC material, stuff that I grew up looking at was that logo.
Yeah.
And then they switched it to I think it was like the DC with like the swirl.
You're right. And then afterwards came the little like page flip,
the page turn, which was like around the New 52.
Yeah,
and then we had the like just the bright blue like blocked lettering of the DC, like what they would say quote unquote DC Studios, which was all the DC like media stuff that came out, and it was like it's fine. It kind of looks like they were just trying to be like Marvel in a way. But like the thing is, I do like that swirl one that they had for like
few
maybe
years, 5-7 years, right?
It's like
Could have been longer,
like
I guess.
8 to 10, I think,
Okay.
like that. I always liked that one too. That one would have been cool. But that's what this is, like classic. It's the same way that like Marvel has always kind of had that same logo. So it's like, why even change it?
Yeah, exactly.
And I was saying about the animation that I do like that the version that we get is like classic, maybe first Superman.
It could be.
I don't know for certain, and maybe that's, you can say I'm a fake DC fan. I don't know anything. I'm sorry, but I
can't know everything.
The action of him breaking the chain and it's switching around is great.
Yeah.
I'm curious if like they'll do that for like so we get the James Gunn Superman, we get Superman breaking the chain, swip. I wonder if we could get the same thing for like a Supergirl, and it's like a Supergirl animation or like a Batman animation
with classic like artwork. Right.
I think that would be fun. Honestly.
I think it would be like really fun to see, especially like you would go into each movie thinking, oh, what are they going to do this time? What are they going to do with my favorite character?
Yeah, and like even let's say they do a sequel to Superman, we get a different Superman from the comics animation,
right?
Or like a comic that was heavily inspired for this movie.
Sure, that'd be great
movie
too.
That was heavily inspired by the comic,
Right,
like
right.
And James Gunn has already like been heavily vocal about wanting to share the comics that have been inspiring.
It's one of the first things he ever did. Yeah.
So I would like that. If we just stay with Superman, totally fine.
Totally fine, because it looks great. But if we want to keep going and be creative with it, that's great too.
What's crazy is this is such a simple, short animation. And maybe they'll update it as the years go on.
Yeah. But it's quick and to the point. Yeah.
But it's I like it better than the silhouetted DC like animation that we got for all the DCU movies. Like I was never like crazy about that one.
Sure. I feel you.
It was fine. Like
fine.
I don't hate it. I don't think it's bad. But like there's something about this that's like, oh, that's really nice.
Yeah. I will say though, like in comparison to like what the MCU has, I think it's so hard to beat that, because like I don't know, like it really is a hype mover. Like before the movie starts, I don't know, it's got great music, great visuals. It like it dissects the logo. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's hard to beat that.
But what I'm saying is like that DCU like silhouettes and like animated version, like maybe CGI versions of those characters is kind of trying to do that.
No,
Marvel
I agree.
Thing.
It is. But I don't think either of these like the new version or that version like beats what Marvel has. But I'm still happy with what DC has now.
Yeah, but I think the thing for me is DC's doing its own thing.
Sure, it is now, right? Yeah.
And that it's going to be all the better for it.
Sure. Yes. Agreed.
know?
Yeah. Totally agree.
So like Marvel's got the, the big like dun 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 dun, and it's like cool. That's great. Like I love it.
I love it.
And now DC's gonna have its own thing that it does. Maybe it's not the intro. Like we don't have a hyped up intro, but we have something else that occurs that we're like, awesome. It's doing its own thing.
Yeah. Shows us that we're in the classic age of superheroes in a sense. Yeah.
Like they're just do what you're both best at. Like don't try to copy each other.
Agreed. Yeah. Well, the other thing that we want to talk about we can't call it a presentation, but the other thing that they showed was that it was they showed the Creature Commandos trailer, which I'm so happy to see. We got a pretty big revelation in this trailer, at least for me. But basically, it starts off with Rick Flag being introduced to Rick Flag Sr., I should say. Sorry, he's talking with Waller, who I feel like he should be mad at because she kind of caused his son's death in a sense.
Maybe he doesn't know that.
He probably doesn't know that. Yeah. But yeah, so she's introducing him to what is now Task Force M, which she calls them later in the trailer. But basically, like she says that, I should say Rick Flag says, I thought Congress put a stop to all of the Task Force X activities. And so like to me that shows that I think what happened at the end of Peacemaker season 1 is like going to impact this show. I don't really understand how like that canon is in this universe, but I think we'll get the explanation there. And so clearly she's not allowed to make Task Force X anymore, but she says the ruling was that we can't use human prisoners, and none of these people are humans.
Yep.
So they are Task Force M.
Did we say that this is for Creature Commandos?
Yes, I said Creature Commandos.
Okay.
Yeah. So, she calls them Task Force M for Task Force Monster, and or their Creature Commandos is the name. Like they were called Suicide Squad and Task Force X. So, besides that, I thought the humor was enjoyable, and the animation and the artwork looked really great.
Yeah. And
I don't know, the vibes of this whole trailer with the music and everything, I was just so excited to see this in December.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm so happy I get to see this in December, and probably around the same time that we're going to get Harley Quinn season 5, which I'll get to see probably 2 DC shows that I've been super excited about.
Yeah.
DC
animation.
And by the way, besides Kite Man, which like the jury's still out, I watched.
Yeah, I'm not positive on that one.
I watched the first episode and was like,
oh yeah, okay,
I'll try the next 2. But besides Kite Man, which I think is maybe a bit of a misstep, My Adventures with Superman, my God, season 2 was perfect.
I'm gonna have to catch up.
Season 2 was one of the best seasons of like an animated show I've ever fucking seen.
Wow.
I was brought to tears in the last episode. It's so good. And
all right. Yeah.
I don't know if this show is gonna maybe do that, but I, like you said, the animation looks great. I love this idea of and I love these characters.
Right.
They're so interesting. I mean, you already kind of know Bride of Frankenstein and Frankenstein, like who they are, but there'll probably be a little bit of a twist, I'm assuming.
Right. No, for sure. But I really love seeing I thought like Dr. Phosphorus was hilarious, and like Weasel looks
G.I.
great.
Robot.
G.I. Robot, yeah, I love his voice and his look, and I mean, it's really done well. I'm really impressed.
And I'm really excited to see if there's any inkling of like what's to come with, like what sort of world building we're going to be introduced to in this show.
I mean, we already got some world building in the trailer alone,
That's true.
So I think we're going to get some serious world building and explanations of what Waller's up to and what her goal is. And I think it'll lead probably right into Peacemaker season 2. What I'm going to assume.
That's what I'm guessing.
Yeah. So great universe. I think we're already on a great start, and excited for December for sure. Yeah. Well, so now we're on to probably the biggest news or the biggest panel of the weekend for San Diego Comic-Con, which is the Marvel MCU panel. First, they showed some new footage for Captain America: Brave New World. Basically, the trailer that was shown, or I don't know if it was exclusive footage or a trailer, but we got the confirmation that Celestials are made out of adamantium, and we have this big speech with President Ross and him saying that the Celestial came out of the ground, and that like a bunch of governments now want the metal inside this Celestial.
And what I was reading was that he wants to share the wealth of the adamantium with like the world, and that's why he wants to put the Avengers together instead of all these governments trying to like fight for it, I guess.
Right. And
by the way, I don't know like who came up with the theory, but for months that was the theory that like Tiamat either was inherently made of adamantium, or when Cersei turned him into, stone or whatever the fuck,
right,
now became adamantium. And if we're assuming that adamantium is going to be the same level of strength as vibranium. And we already know how people want vibranium.
I feel like
fucking anything.
From what I've heard, adamantium's stronger than vibranium. I could be wrong though.
Everything that I've seen, it's like it's just as strong.
Okay.
I don't know.
Sure.
But
maybe the MCU will do one or the other, or just do the exact, like, it's just as strong.
Yeah, just as strong. Yeah.
I think it would be exciting to have one be better than the other. I wouldn't really be opposed as to which one, but
yeah.
But yeah, I think it's exciting for so many of us who have been so frustrated that Tiamat's never been mentioned, and that this big celestial out of the earth has never been mentioned. And now we have, like, it being a center plot for this movie.
I love it.
So I love it too. We also got in this exclusive footage that President Ross is giving a speech in front of the White House, and that's when he turns into Red Hulk and is, like, fighting Captain America and the cherry blossoms. So that's going to be a really exciting scene. We also got
probably the end of his candidacy.
Yeah.
I don't know how people would be crazy about, like, oh, well, our president turns into a Red Hulk.
Yeah, he might be impeached. Yeah.
That might
pretty possible.
Be a problem for if he goes to the UN and he's like, well, I hope.
Yeah, he'd be a security risk. I mean, like, you couldn't take him anywhere.
No.
Yeah. But yeah, so then we also like, Giancarlo Esposito's character has been confirmed to be Sidewinder, who will be the king of the Serpent Society. I know, like, in the past week or so, like, leakers have reported that he'll be this character called George Washington Bridge.
Yeah.
But no one really got it right. It was Sidewinder, and I don't really know anything about the King of the Serpent Society or the Serpent Society too much. So
and it was interesting they brought up that he was exclusively shot with the reshoots in mind. So
right. It'll
be interesting to see why
how big of a plot he is, or
But I also don't know that much about the Serpent Society, other than back when I think it was Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
It was either Civil War or Winter Soldier, but I think it was Civil War. Back when there was, like, a bunch of hype, like, oh my God, what's going to be the next Captain America movie?
Mm-hmm.
The rumor, one of the websites that had been created was, like, Captain America Serpent Society.
I remember that.
And everyone was like, oh my God.
Because that sounds super dope.
Yeah. And if people had watched Invincible season 2, we do get kind of their, like, the Invincible version of, like, Serpent Society, which is, like, all these snake related superhero or super villains. And I don't know, like, again, that much, other than, like, Sidewinder. Snake name? Is there a, like, Sidewinder
from what I
snake?
know,
I don't know, but,
like, Sidewinder doesn't look like anything like a human, from what I can tell, so maybe Giancarlo Esposito turns into a amphibious kind of snake-like serpent creature.
Or maybe I don't know. Just, like, really shady, slithery morals, and that's why they're called this.
Which I don't mind. But I mean, if you want to be a snake in the grass, but it's fine.
It would. I'm curious. Maybe he's not. Like, super powered yet.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. Like, in the movie, he'll gain his abilities and then he'll get his own show, which he's, like, Giancarlo Esposito said, he'll have a show after this. So.
Right. And I think that the show, if it's not, you know what it might be?
What?
If it's not, we're going to get a Serpent Society show, which I find to be a little shaky. Like, I don't know about the plausibility of that.
I think he'll be the villain of a show. I'm not sure we'll get, like, him as the hero,
Right. Or they would be in the villain of a show, which could be maybe a Captain America and the Falcon season 2.
Right. Because I don't know if most people know.
I find it a little weird to, like, have, all right, so TV to movie to back to TV.
Yeah, it's not what Marvel set out to do, because, like, in the beginning of the Disney Plus shows, they were like, yeah, these are just bonus like material for the MCU. You could go through the MCU and never watch these and it would be fine.
Right.
Which I don't think is the case anymore, because you literally have to watch Miss Marvel to watch the Marvels. But I do think that, oh gosh, what was I going to say? That oh my gosh, I don't know. I'll come back to me unless you have something.
Yeah, no, well, no, I mean, it's not what they intended to go back, like, to have happen. They wanted the Disney Plus shows to just be things that you could watch and have a good time. And some of it would lead into it, but it's not necessary viewing material. But even then, like, a lot of Marvel movies weren't necessary viewing material for other products. Like, you could technically jump into an Infinity War, and a lot of people said, I didn't really have any issues following what happened. Hannah with the TVA, watching Deadpool and Wolverine, did not know a single thing about the TVA. Explained
it was pretty
beautifully.
Right.
Didn't need any of that history, but the history's there if you want to go, watch it.
Totally agree.
But yeah, I want to know what the series would be. I don't know if it would be like, okay, maybe the Serpent Society is in Wonder Man. Maybe the Serpent Society is in a Captain America and the Falcon season 2. But I find it a little strange to have like Anthony Mackie now go back to a TV role as Captain America.
I agree, that would be a mistake. Like, I think he should be fully for the movies now. Like, you gave him a setup with a TV show that technically you don't really need. It's really nice context, I think. Yeah. And I think if you were going to do it, like, I don't really want another new show for the MCU. I think that would be a mistake. But like, when they released all the steelbooks for you
say season 1.
Right. They say season 1 on the steelbook, whereas like WandaVision, they say the complete series. Right. And so you're like, well, that means they're planning a season 2 potentially.
Unless they want to do like Falcon, which this would be a stretch.
Okay.
It's another Falcon and the Winter Soldier, not Captain America and the Winter Soldier, but it is Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and it follows now Falcon.
Right. Anthony Ramos, I think, is who's playing him. I could be okay with that. I really could. I really do wish, though, like, that's my one flaw in that. I mean, not one flaw. That's one of my flaws in that show, is that they didn't do like Captain America and like a new name for Bucky. It was like he still was just the Winter Soldier, which I think he's not really the Winter Soldier anymore. You know?
Yeah. I mean, but what do they end up calling him? The White Tiger?
I think so. Yeah. Which I know it's not an amazing name, but like, he does have another name that the Wakandans call him, you know? So yeah. Yeah. But no, I think that's possible, and I wouldn't mind seeing that. But I also think I would like to see Bucky and Cap again, you know?
But here's the thing. Still in, and I know we're going off on a tangent here, but even in Falcon the Winter Soldier, he is still technically Winter Soldier. He's not like fully become like a different character. He's still wrestling with the past of what he did, and a lot of people still regard him as Winter Soldier.
Sure, but I think you were shown an arc through that series, and by the end he had overcome like what was holding him back from like really telling the truth to like somebody he considered a friend, but that he had really wronged in the past, you know?
But then that would have been the point to change it to Captain America and the White Tiger or whatever the fuck.
Right. Yeah. Which I don't know. Maybe that's a little awkward for people and wouldn't have landed as well, but
it's awkward.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, I think exciting details about this.
Yeah.
And
And we saw, and I guess one of the descriptions of Harrison Ford as the Red Hulk was like, it's just Red Hulk. It's his face. He's got red skin, black hair, and it looks like Harrison Ford. And I think one of the quotes was that Harrison Ford was saying, I just saw all these great actors having so much fun in these Marvel movies, and I wanted a piece of that. And I was
he said he's honored to be a part of this. And I was like, cool.
All right, Harrison. Like,
yeah.
Dope. I'm fucking happy, you know.
But I did hear him say also that like the him doing the Red Hulk stuff was like, he's like, I've been an idiot on camera for money before. It doesn't really like, it doesn't bother me, like something to that effect. And I was like,
I mean,
okay, yeah,
he did a whole movie with a CGI dog. CGI dog on, not even on location, on like a fucking sound stage.
What are you doing, Harrison?
He loved that movie.
Yeah, well, not many people did.
Well, anyways,
yes. So
the next one,
right? The next one they showed off at the MCU panel was they showed the first trailer of the Thunderbolts, which unfortunately hasn't been leaked online, and so we can't really watch this one. I mean, maybe it has, but we didn't find it. Yeah.
From all accounts, from what we were reading about it, like you have in our notes here, Yelena visits her dad, Red Guardian, calls him dad, which is kind of like a change of pace.
Yeah, but I know there's a little dark thing that like she says that like her purpose now is like killing. Like she just, that's her only purpose in life. So she's turned into a dark path for sure since we last saw her in Hawkeye. Yeah. But apparently we also get Ghost in a new costume. We get Red Guardian in a new costume because he came out on stage at SDCC and showed it off. So that looked pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
But then, we get the plot detail that the movie starts with all the Thunderbolts assigned, like individually assigned to the same mission without them knowing somebody else is on it. And they're all set up at that job. So I'm not sure what organization they're all a part of to have been assigned a mission.
Right.
Maybe it's Saber. Maybe it's, I don't know what it is. But it's possible that, I don't know, because at that point, like you're thinking, oh, well, at that point, maybe they band all together at that point because they've all been set up and they choose to form this group as the members. But in my mind, it felt like what's her name? Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like she was setting up this whole group. So I'm like, well, where's her role in this? I'm not really sure.
Right.
So definitely not a lot of details yet.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Well, and also, God, what was it? I mean, besides them all being set up, they specifically stated that Thunderbolts has nothing to do with Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross. Nothing to do with the name at all. Which is, well, I'm okay. I'm okay with it. I am okay with it.
But then don't you think it's gonna like, I don't know if you heard that rumor / report that like Thunderbolts, the reason they picked that name, like in the movie at least, is because like it was Yelena's like soccer team as a child.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm like,
watch.
Like,
look, if it's done well, and it has an emotional component to it, you're gonna be eating your words. Secondly, if it doesn't have an emotional component and it feels like natural and tone-wise to the movie of like, we gotta call ourselves something and it's funny or like whatever, I'm for it. Like, I don't give a fuck. I want to know what the fuck is up with not the apostrophe. What would you call that?
Asterisk? I think it's an asterisk. Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. But I want to know what's up with that.
Yeah. For sure. And I don't think we'll know until the movie comes out, unfortunately. I think it's possible that it's not done terribly and it's done for emotional purposes in the movie. But I think it's a damn shame to give us Thunderbolt Ross as Red Hulk in the same year we get a Thunderbolts movie and have them not be connected in some way. I think it's almost the same mistake that like Shazam and Black Adam had, coming out months apart and not being connected almost in any way, you know?
Yeah. It is an asterisk. But yeah, sure. But maybe we're all being thrown for a loop and Red Hulk shows up in it at some point. And that was the big surprise.
That'd be great. I'd love that. But I don't think he would be a member. Like from what I hear, like Red Hulk's been a member of the Thunderbolts in the past, but I don't think that would ever happen. But yeah, what I'm really hoping is that everybody gets their time to shine in this movie, and that it's just a fun team up, and maybe it has some Suicide Squad energy, and yeah. But we didn't get too many details, but some new suits were shown, and the first plot detail of this movie kind of released. So yeah, but then we get Fantastic Four really heavily shown off at San Diego Comic-Con. It was given a new title. It's called Fantastic Four: The First Steps. It's still got the July 25 release date, even though the trailer that was shown off only said 2025. But they also showed off, like I said, they showed off a trailer, even though from what I heard, like the filming wasn't supposed to begin until Tuesday. So I guess they filmed a bunch of stuff beforehand, and now they're filming. I don't know what happened. But this trailer leaked online, so Zack and I got to watch it. But yeah, the footage trailer that we saw, it starts off with Reed Richards like teaching a bunch of kids on a television program called Fantastic Science, and he's teaching them about alternate dimensions and parallel Earths, which leads right into our multiverse phase. And we get to see a ton of footage of their space mission, or I guess preparing for the space mission, and we get to see like the tower that they leave from, and the world of the Fantastic Four, and like the first look at their Fantastic Car.
Which, when I saw it floating around on the stage at the panel, I was like, I don't know how that's gonna work. Like I was like a little bit like, oh, but then I see it in the trailer and I'm like, oh,
it looks so good.
That looks great.
Yeah. It really moved around like it was a little spaceship. Yeah. And so they also showed off like a silhouette of the Thing in a little dating show from the 60s. And at the very end of the trailer, we got to see our first look at Galactus. So a lot was shown in this trailer.
By the way, for anybody who hasn't seen the leak, he does look like a large, comic accurate
person,
celestial being.
Yeah. And his eyes are just peering through a building, and he's gigantic. So many things. Like, I feel like we didn't get to see a ton in this trailer, but in a sense we did, because we got our first look at Galactus. We got, all four of them in footage as the Fantastic Four in a sense. And we got the Fantastic Car, and I don't know. It's just, I think we also just got the vibe of what this movie truly is, where it truly is a retro future 60s era. And it's technology that we haven't seen in Earth 616. And I think that's going to be so exciting to be on an Earth that feels so different from what we've been getting.
Then when they inevitably come into the Earth 616.
Right. Yeah. I can't wait for their like reaction to just be like, why haven't you guys progressed as far as us? like what's going on here? Yeah.
And it's so interesting, the tone of it. It just feels so different.
Yeah.
Than anything other that like Marvel's made, besides Eternals, because Eternals is very different, but in a very different way. Yeah. But it's so interesting seeing this,
right?
The way that it was some of it was like shot in a 4:3 aspect ratio, which was extremely interesting.
For sure.
It looked like in a lot of ways, like it looked like an art house 824 like movie. Like it had this like realism to it, but like a heightened reality about it. And it was, but it also felt like an independent movie in some ways, but with like great CGI and I was like, like overall, I was like very impressed and like excited about it. I was like, we've never seen anything like it before. I'm curious about the first steps added bit about, which like some people are like a little iffy on it. I'm not crazy about it, but I don't mind it. Like
I don't mind it
I'm
at
more
all.
just curious how it's going to tie into everything.
And it's not like that's saying, oh, this is an origin movie, because they like came out and were like, we are not going to see the origin of them. We are going to pick up right after they get their powers, basically. So I know that still is somewhat origin-y,
right,
but you're skipping over the part that we've already seen twice in past Fantastic Four movies. Yeah. And I like they did it recently too. Was it Batman? They skipped the origin. I mean, like it's just like when you come back. Oh, was it? No, that's what I'm thinking of. Spider-Man. Like when they did that in the MCU again, you just skipped his origin, and because like we already know who this character is. We know what happens to these guys to get these powers.
I mean,
we can just pick up afterwards.
Robert Pattinson Batman.
Yeah, we did, but he doesn't really get powers or anything. But yeah. But yeah, I think it's really great, exciting footage that we saw. It feels fresh. It feels new. I love everything about it, genuinely.
And is it Michael Giacchino that's composing the score, or is that
correct?
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So he's composing it, and he's got a ton of range, and he's done a ton of great movies, and it's all coming together. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it looks better than I could have anticipated. Honestly,
and
especially with Galactus.
I just can't believe there's already like a trailer out, because
I was a little shocked about that.
I like we're a year out from it releasing. I mean, that's so long, you know.
But I wouldn't
especially
call that a trailer. I guess I call it just like a little teaser.
Sure. And I feel like a lot of that footage won't even be in the movie. Like a lot of the footage of them like going up for the space shuttle, and like the footage of them filming each other and like in their space suits and whatnot. Like I don't think we're really gonna see any of that, because that's before the movie picks up, where they're at. So it's possible that they just.
I think it's either like something that's used as like marketing, or it's something that'll happen in the first few minutes as like just like, let me bring you up to speed.
Right, right. So I don't know. It feels like it's more and more possible that this movie does reach a July release date, because it's further along than I really thought it was. Yeah. Because if they already have footage of the car and of Galactus, like that's a lot. Like you've already done a lot of the work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So very exciting footage. Yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe the most exciting news is the last bit that they teased and showed us at the end of their panel. So first they showed that the next two Avengers movies have new release dates, and that one of them has a new title. So Avengers Kang Dynasty has now been retitled to Avengers Doomsday, and that's releasing May 2026. And Avengers Secret Wars is now releasing May 2027, and that also has a new logo to go along with Secret Wars.
Right.
So those look cool. I think a lot of us are, and I know you're probably not one of them, but are a little disappointed that the Kang storyline never really went anywhere.
I mean, I'm disappointed that it didn't go anywhere. Right. I am. I'm just
because like I really did like
losses,
the build up. Sure,
I did,
sure.
But
and now, like in a sense, like Infinity War, we had been leading up to that since 2012 in the MCU, right? And now it feels like the next Avengers movie we haven't really been building up to, in a sense, but I don't know. I think it's still very exciting to have Doctor Doom as the next like villain of an Avengers movie. And the big reason, I guess, also behind that is because we got the announcement that Robert Downey Jr. will be back in the MCU in a new role as Doctor Doom. There has been a lot of debate I've seen about whether this is good, or whether people would rather have had a more true version of Doctor Doom than a Robert Downey Jr. version. I think I'm incredibly excited about this. I know I'm not like the biggest Doctor Doom fan, but I don't mind the MCU taking liberties with its stories in a sense. And I know it's not like one of the biggest storylines and comics, but I think like, Tony Stark has become an evil version of Doctor Doom before. It's not like a super common thing in the comics, but it has happened. And I think they'll definitely pull from that story, because why even cast Robert Downey Jr. if he's not connected at all to Tony Stark, I don't know. Like, to me, that feels like a wasted opportunity, right?
Right. I mean, so like you said, there's been a lot of debate about this. Some people are saying, oh, this is just a safe choice for Marvel. I understand people's lines of thinking about it. Okay, so Marvel's been struggling. How do we increase hype again? We'll bring Robert Downey Jr. back.
Right.
Safe bet. Granted, everybody loves Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr. is a big part of the MCU. MCU is Tony Stark is MCU is Tony Stark.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel differently, because to have your lead character or one of your lead guys from all of Marvel come back to play a completely different role, supposedly, which we can go into,
sure,
I think is way riskier, because you run the gambit of people being upset about damaging the legacy of like Robert Downey Jr. and Tony Stark in the MCU.
Right.
You are already potentially messing with the character of Victor Von Doom by having Robert Downey Jr. play him, depending on how they do this.
Right.
There is an argument to be made that it could be a safe pull instead of getting somebody new. But I think it's quite exciting. I think they needed to have like a big name attached to draw attention to it. And I don't think that, like, yes, you would get some buzz if it was somebody else, but it doesn't feel like a safe bet that it's going to work, that it's like a safe bet that people are going to like it, but find it extremely interesting and exciting.
I think it does run the risk of like disappointing the Victor Von Doom fans like heavily, because if you don't use Victor Von Doom in this, then which I think in casting Robert Downey Jr., that would be a mistake to make him Victor Von Doom, because I mean, like you said, like there are a lot of casual moviegoers, and if you see Robert Downey Jr. again, you're like, is that Iron Man? Like what's going on? And I don't know. So, I just think like if you connect it all and make him this variant of Tony Stark, I think it serves him coming back in a much better way than him just playing a new character.
Right. So there's a couple theories that I have and that I've heard about how this could work out. Now, Granted, Joe and Anthony Russo did say this is the guy who's going to be playing Victor Von Doom.
They said that. Okay.
So take that with a grain of salt.
Sure.
But these are the ways that I've been thinking about it in the last less than 24 hours.
Uh-huh.
Which is one of the prevailing theories that was going on a couple weeks prior to San Diego Comic-Con. This is because we're dealing with another universe with the Fantastic Four, and dealing with multiverse in general, and with the fact that it is Robert Downey Jr.'s face, which everybody is going to know,
right,
in the MCU, that he is a variant of Tony Stark who, let's say he didn't have his come to Jesus moment in the desert in the first Iron Man, or it turned out really bad, his experience in the desert. Something happens. He still wants to protect the world, but doing it his own way. And when he says like new mask, same task, maybe it's him wanting to still protect the world, but he's doing it in a more kind of nefarious way. So that is one possibility. Another possibility is that maybe Tony Stark in another reality, something happened, especially to his parents, never knew that he was Tony Stark, grew up in like Latveria and was adopted and called like Victor instead, and just was only known as Victor Von Doom.
I've also heard that in the storyline that like people are talking about where he becomes like a variant of Tony Stark becomes like Doctor Doom is that he uses the alias of Victor Von Doom, even though like Tony Stark is his name. I'm not really sure how that works in the storyline, but I think there's a lot of possibilities where you have him playing Victor Von Doom, even though he's a like a variant of Tony Stark.
Right.
Yeah.
The other option would be that he is straight up playing Victor Von Doom, and we're just gonna have to like, just
kind of
ignore
deal with
the face. Right. I don't know. I feel
that's my least favorite outcome, to be honest.
I feel like that's not the case, or like he just keeps the mask on the whole time and we never see the face.
Well, and here's the thing: like the reason like that he has the mask, isn't it like because his face is like pretty disfigured? So maybe his face is disfigured enough that we don't even see Robert Downey Jr.'s actual face. Which even if he takes the mask off, I'm saying like there's enough like prosthetics underneath where you don't even recognize him.
Exactly.
Maybe,
but part of what's interesting about him is that rivalry with Reed Richards.
Yeah.
And so, but here's the thing. The same way that we got the Mandarin in Iron Man 3, but we eventually got Mandarin, the real Mandarin in Shang-Chi, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that this possible variant of Tony Stark, Doctor Doom, couldn't at the end of Secret Wars just end up being a new Doctor Doom that we follow for the rest of the MCU, the same way that we're most likely going to get a new Wolverine that's not going to be Hugh Jackman.
Right.
Regardless, I don't think it's a safe bet. I think that what they're doing, they pulled Robert Downey Jr. back because obviously I knew Robert Downey Jr. was going to come back one way or another. That's what I always believed. But that you
were right. I really didn't believe it. I didn't.
And they have somebody came up with a story. We had talked about that they wanted to focus on Doctor Doom, right? And they went to a retreat, a Marvel retreat, and they wanted to. There was rumors that they wanted to move away from Kang. Obviously, they kind of have, unless we find out that like Kang is somehow still a part of the story in a lesser way.
Sure.
But somebody came up with the idea of like, well, what if narratively we get to see the same way that Hugh Jackman gets to play a variant of Logan and Deadpool and Wolverine that's different but still kind of the same. We get to see Tony Stark come back, play it in a different way, is a new character, but is as Doctor Doom, and like hopefully there's a strong enough idea and a good enough idea that people went with it. I hope it's not the pessimistic idea of my brain that's like, oh, well, we need Doctor Doom. What if,
what if we brought back our favorite actor?
Yeah, what if we brought back the name that's going to garner the most buzz?
Right. I just feel like without the face, I don't know if most people would know that Robert Downey Jr., like, unless you have it on the posters everywhere of like Avengers Doomsday. And, it's like, if you don't include his face, then like, will people really flock to the theaters to see Robert Downey Jr.? I don't know.
Absolutely. They'll have his name. He'll be doing press. People will know. And if his face is hidden behind the mask for a good amount, like there's still so much you could do. Like the same way, maybe this isn't a great comparison, but like, I still think Tom Hardy did a good enough job with Bane that like you could still get some stuff out of like wearing that mask,
Sure.
But anyways,
but here's the thing, like I didn't know that was Tom Hardy when I saw that movie until like years later, So I don't know. I think they're like you said, there's casual moviegoers who just don't pay attention to press junkets and all that kind of stuff, and it's possible that they just don't know. But I don't know. I think most routes they go with Doctor Doom, it's gonna work well. I don't think there's a route, or maybe not many routes that I think they can take where they can mess this up. So I'm hopeful that if not this time around, then later on there's a rendition of Doctor Doom that's a bit more
comic accurate.
Right.
Or maybe this version is going to be kind of comic accurate. Or maybe this is just how we're going to do it because all the previous versions of Doctor Doom never worked. Right. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the only time that we'll get Doctor Doom.
I mean, it has to be better than the last one, right? The last one in Fantastic.
And I do, and a little bit of like fan history, comic book movie history. Robert Downey Jr. auditioned to be Doctor Doom in the original Fantastic Four movies that came out, and he didn't get the part.
Kevin Feige really wanted him. Yeah, yeah. So that is very cool. I actually totally forgot about that. But yeah, they also, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, they also confirmed that he's going to be in both the next Avengers movies as Doctor Doom.
Well, he has. If you know the Secret Wars story, he has to be.
Right, yes. Right. But then they also confirmed that Fantastic Four will also be in both the next Avengers movies. So I do believe he will be in Fantastic Four. I don't think so too. I don't think he'll be a major role, but he'll be introduced, and we'll see him at the end of the movie. I think get transported along with, or maybe he'll be the cause for the transportation. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, we got him, I think, confirmed for 3 more movies, which is so exciting. Yeah. I mean, bombshell news this weekend. I don't think we neither of us could believe it.
I mean, it was insane. And I fucking told you that they're going to announce Joe and Anthony Russo to direct.
Yeah. They did.
I told you they had those names on lock. And
I'm so happy. And like they I don't know if you heard, but they were like, we truly thought we were done when we directed Avengers Endgame. We were like, that was everything we ever gave to the MCU. But I'm so happy that they have a reignited passion for it, and that we're going to get their beautiful directing in both the Avengers movies, and that we have an amazing actor back for it. Like, it really does feel like we're back in the heyday of Marvel, and the possibilities are endless. So it's a really great time.
It feels like it, but they need Captain America and Thunderbolts to be great movies.
They do. Those need to nail it. You're right. And they need to move the needle, or maybe not, like move the arc, the narrative of the MCU forward towards Avengers.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So that is, I think, everything from SDCC that we wanted to talk about. A lot of exciting news, and I'm glad you all stuck around for it with us. But as always, if you want to watch us in the future, we release our episodes on Mondays and then clips on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. The videos on YouTube and the audio versions on Apple Podcasts, Podbean, and Spotify. If you want to follow us on our socials, the links to those are in the description below. And if you want to give us a like, a comment, a rating, a review, or subscribe, we'd greatly appreciate it.
And as always, until next time.